everybody. Welcome into the broadcast here on this Tuesday evening. It's Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz. We're here to look at a severe weather risk tomorrow. We highlighted this on our Region Weather Live on Sunday night, at least the potential for it. We knew, given the heat and humidity that we have around here, that something's got to give, right? And that give is going to be for some showers and thunderstorms that are going to be on the intense side tomorrow, as it looks right now, for a good portion of the state of Indiana. And I'll tell you, I'm not usually impressed by severe weather odds. I usually try to talk us down, and I'm not here to talk us up, but it does look very impressive tomorrow in terms of the dynamics that this atmosphere is going to be able to produce for thunderstorms. I mean, we've got our highest sun angle of the year, so we can get really incredible amounts of instability. And we even have some jet stream energy coming into this, which is usually what we lack this time of year, including a low-level jet that may get involved with this as well. So a lot of kind of components that are going to come together to produce at least the potential for some big storms tomorrow. And the potential of it coming to fruition is a little bit higher than usual as well. There's not a lot of questions in terms of if this develops. It's kind of like, when does it develop? We are on the fringe, though, of some of the models in terms of it developing over us and pushing east with the bigger threat east, which I tend to agree with. But I still think we're going to get some pretty decent storms tomorrow. At least the potential's there. Atmosphere is ready to go. Okay, we're going to let a couple more people join. I'll zip through our sponsors. As always, guys, these sponsors keep all these shows for free. All this work, I put in a lot of extra work on the side, which you don't need to know about, but there is a lot of time and effort that goes into this. And these folks all support me, and I hope you support them in return. All local businesses to Northwest Indiana. First and foremost, Earl's Heating and Air Conditioning. It is going to get so scorching hot next week. I know it's summer, but we're going to have heat indices, and I'll actually touch on that a little bit at the end of the broadcast. We're going to have heat indices to get well over 100 degrees for multiple days. Guys, if your AC is not working, please get it fixed now. They're offering at Earl's some not free tune-ups right now, but some great deals on tune-ups. They're the most trusted heating source in Schererville since 1976. The website is earlsheating.com. Make sure you reach out to them and get on the schedule, because I'm sure they're going to get booked fast. Publicserviceadjusting.com, the website to go to if you have an insurance claim. Don't go to your insurance. Oh, my goodness. First and foremost, let's take a break to look at Baby Without a Shirt On. What are you doing, buddy? What are we doing up here? Did Mama let you go from upstairs? Yeah, you're in the weather hub here. All sorts of weather stuff going on, huh? All right, you want to go play with your toys? That's our second appearance by Silas here. You smell good. Daddy gave you a bath today, huh? All right. That is not what you tuned in for. That's okay. He loves the broadcast. All right, so in terms, Mama just came down and got him. Publicserviceadjusting.com, the place to go if you have an insurance claim. Guys, listen, you can go to your insurance company for things, and then they'll, go real slow with things. They won't give you much money in return. Or you can go to publicserviceadjusting.com. They're all local licensed insured adjusters. They'll come out, take pictures, document everything, and they'll be basically your middleman going to your insurance company with everything. You don't have to deal with it, and they'll get you top dollar back. Publicserviceadjusting.com. Romansroofing.net is the place to go if you guys are in need of a new roof. They do commercial, residential, storm restoration as well. If you have a leak or anything that you need roof related, romansroofing.net. They do siding, gutters, and windows as well. They are all service and all over Northwest Indiana. They're local to Hobart, though. Great Lakes Lighting, be the envy of your neighborhood with expertly placed outdoor lighting. It enhances security and the look of your property. Great Lakes Lighting is the place to go if you want to highlight those flowers that you've been working so hard on. Light Up NWI is the website, lightupnwi.com. Kate Cusack for Ruoff Mortgage. She's our local lender for all your mortgage needs. She'll get you in your dream home just in time for that hot weather. I don't know about next week, but in time for July. The housing market's heating up, and so are the pools out there. If you want a pool with your new home, or maybe you're searching for a starter home, she'll help you get it all in line. Kate Cusack for Ruoff Mortgage is Kate Cusack Home Loan Girl on Facebook, or you can give her a call at 219-775-6645. TigerPlumbing.net for all your plumbing needs. They come out for free. They analyze the problem. You can send a video of your leak or whatever you've got going on. They install faucets. They'll make sure things are running where they need to go. Outdoor spigots, maybe they're spraying the neighbor, whatever it is. TigerPlumbing.net. FBIBuildings.com. They've done over 20,000 pole barns in the Midwest. They do renovation. They do new pole barn construction, residential, commercial. They're amazing. FBIBuildings.com for that. Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Valparaiso. They have new Jeeps ready to go with the doors that come off, and you can stick your foot at. Well, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. You want to stay safe. But you can do some amazing things with Jeeps nowadays. They have a brand new set of 2026s, I believe, coming out. Grieger's, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Valparaiso right there in US 30. And finally, last but not least, if we do get wind damage, even if we don't, if you have a weird looking tree on your property that's been staring at you saying, I'm about to fall, T&T Tree Service is the place to go. They're professional. They come into tight spaces. They get trees out and they clean up, which is more important than anything in my mind. So many people don't clean up after they're done. TTTreeservice.com. That's 3 T's, TTTreeservice.com. All right, we've got some people that have joined now. We're ready to dive into the kind of the meat and potatoes of our broadcast here. Thanks for joining me on a special night. I forgot Minogue.life, expert in Michael Minogue's the expert in life insurance, Medicare, Medicaid. He will sit down with a no-cost consultation with you. If you have any questions around the plan that you have, you may not be getting all your benefits out of it. Maybe you're paying too much for life insurance. You're wasting your money. He'd be happy to sit down with you. Again, no-cost consultation, Minogue.life, the place to go. I knew I jumped over one. All right, in terms of our forecast here tonight, thanks for joining us. This is a special broadcast here tonight. I just want to get everyone up to speed on kind of my thoughts around the severe weather tomorrow. It is a very impressive setup, and this is kind of how it's shaking out. There's just a big mess on the weather map this time of year. There's so much moisture from here to the Canadian border. We've got just rich flow of moisture out of the Gulf. We've had this Bermuda high that's been parked off the East Coast for a good 5 or 6 days now. So as a result, we just get this flow that comes out of the Gulf, and it brings all that air that you usually feel down in Florida and the deep south. It brings that all the way off towards the north. And that's typical this time of year. Yes, we do get humid around here, but this has had a little longevity to it. And it's also, when you get a humid air mass all the way up to the Canadian border, you tend to spark a lot of storms under that air mass as long as there's lift or reasons for the air to lift. And we've got numerous frontal boundaries, one out towards the west where my mouse cursor is, and then there's kind of a quasi-stationary front out towards the west with an area of low pressure that's starting to develop down towards Kansas. We've had severe weather over the last couple of days in Montana. Today it's shifted into Kansas particularly. They've had explosive thunderstorms over the last couple hours. They got hit hard this morning when I was doing the morning show. 3 o'clock this morning, they were getting a ton of lightning and big storms moving through Kansas. So they've gotten socked today. But there's a low pressure that'll develop out of this, and that will swing our way. And this low is really impressive for this time of year. It's got some good energy to it. It'll deepen as it moves in. And again, it's that setup that looks a little different to me that can produce some pretty robust thunderstorms in and around the region this time of year. In terms of the radar, we'll kind of zoom in here and take a look at what's going on. I was the only one in the forecast this morning that had pop-up storms along a lake breeze, and I'm proud of that. But I was watching the radar this afternoon, the cumulus clouds. I'm like, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And now we're starting to see some pop-ups in Berrien County in Michigan, just north of Michigan City. We've got a few additional pop-ups out towards the west. In my mind, it's these little wins in the weather world when you can beat an app or AI or whatever it is with something as minute as a pop-up thunderstorm along a lake breeze. I stay happy with that. So there's that. It's not a huge win, but again, we've got that this evening. Of bigger note, though, is this mess to the west, right? Here's your big storms in Kansas. What we're going to keep our eye on overnight into the early morning hours is this activity back towards the Illinois-Missouri border, all right? This is not expected to be severe. The dynamics with this whole storm system are still coming together. So it's Kansas up towards Nebraska and areas of the Dakotas that have more of the dynamics in terms of being able to support severe weather. A lot of times in the summertime, our thunderstorms don't support severe weather. They go up on updrafts and all that heating, and then they rain themselves out. As that rain comes down, it brings cooler air down, it stops the updraft, and the whole storm's gone, and you see new storms pop on the outside. Those are rarely severe, right? Those are your run-of-the-mill thunderstorms like what we have popping right now, what we have off towards our east. But every now and then, like we do in the spring and the fall particularly, you get upper air support from that. And what I mean by that is you have a jet stream that's roaring over you or some kind of wind flow that takes those storms and prevents them from raining themselves out. It takes it, it shears off the top and keeps that flow going where the updraft can continue to sustain itself without getting rained out. And we have that upper air support coming in for areas of, as I mentioned, Kansas back towards Nebraska. So I'm not expecting these storms to develop out towards our west that are developing now. These I do think will roll in tonight. I think we'll get some heavy rain and perhaps some lightning in portions of the region. But this is not going to be severe tonight, whereas tomorrow we get that upper air support, and that's when things get a little bit different. So I just want to make that clear because a lot of times when we have either severe weather broadcasts or we're talking about the potential for severe weather, we'll get some storms, and a lot of people will start messaging me and saying, Is this it? Hey, we've got storms here. Do we need to watch these? I'm not worried about tonight's storms, okay? But we will have some kind of little chunk of showers and storms move through here tonight into tomorrow. Here's where your severe threat is today, and then let's fast forward to tomorrow, all right? And this hasn't changed very much. We have an enhanced risk, or 3 out of 5, across a good portion of Indiana that stretches from northwest Ohio and southern Michigan all the way down into Missouri for kind of the bullseye for that. But remember, Mother Nature doesn't follow the lines by Storm Prediction Center. Okay, so I would say anything in yellow and even dark green, which is our marginal risk, we need to keep an eye out for these storms. And I would highlight especially northwest Indiana and the whole state of Indiana, as we'll have this low pressure coming in, and that's where the explosive thunderstorms look to be. So again, don't pay too much attention to the line. We want to look at the trend for this, and the trend is, yeah, Indiana's in the bullseye, and that includes us here in northwest Indiana for the highest risk of severe weather tomorrow, okay? So let's take you through the modeling. Again, we can look at models till we're sick in the face. All of this is public. You can look at this. This is what a lot of weather pages, which there's just so many weather pages now. This is what a lot of weather pages will put out, is they'll just show a model and they'll say, wow, or they'll say, uh-oh, and then they're just showing the model. But as a meteorologist, our job is to look at a model and say, that's right, that's wrong, or I like that based on my history of forecasting these events, or that doesn't look right to me. Our job is to kind of analyze the models and come up with gradually our own forecasts, right? And so I've combed through all the models. There's some things I like about the HRRR, at least the 18Z, which has the new data in it. There's some things I like about the NAM and the NAM-NEST. The RAP I like as well. There's a lot of little characteristics and how this develops. But what I've learned through the forecasting here over the last half hour or so, and this morning when I was working the TV job, is that there's one thing that this all kind of depends on tomorrow, and it's morning convection. All right, so let's talk about that. I'll take you through the models here. This is the HRRR model that came out at 18Z. I like this best. Again, it goes out the furthest. You have fresh data being ingested into it as well. And so in terms of the action here, this is what we're dealing with right now, right? We've got the storms in Kansas. We've got the storms developing in areas of eastern Missouri, all right? And that will roll in tonight. I like that solution. This rolls in overnight tonight, some rumbles of thunder, some heavier downpours possible. Then this low pressure gets going down towards Kansas and Missouri, and it starts to spin our way. You can see it right here. This is kind of the rare thing, or the thing that's getting thrown into the mix tomorrow that isn't exactly typical for this time of year, to see a stronger area of low pressure get going down towards Missouri and heading our way. A lot of it has to do off of the kind of the development of the storms tonight. It forms kind of its own low pressure system, kind of like you'd see in an MCS cluster. It's not that, but it's kind of resembling that. And this low heads our way, and it looks to head right over northwest Indiana. So what does that mean? That means we have the most lift and the most shear out of this whole storm system as this thing moves in. So the big question is, this morning action, do we have lingering showers and clouds around early in the day tomorrow that would prevent us from becoming really, really, really unstable? We know we're going to be unstable because it's hot and humid outside, but does that slow us down a little bit in terms of that morning activity? That's what everything kind of bases on in terms of the modeling. But all indication is on most of the model guidance that that activity does clear out. All right, we bring in a stronger southeast wind, south-southeast wind. We evict some real high dew points in here, which we already have in place. And this low pressure comes in. The one thing we need is lift, right? This low will have tremendous lift with it in a highly unstable environment. And so as a result, this is now late morning, all right? We've got a low pressure system that's swirling just down into the southwest corner of Illinois, and that comes north. And then boom, you get some development on the leading edge of that, which would actually be kind of the frontal boundary at that point. You'd get heavy rain on the north side with not much of a severe threat, but it's these right here, right along this line, that if they get going are really going to pack a punch. And we're talking hail, high wind potential, and there's a tremendous amount of shear, at least initially, with any supercells that develop. So I could see a pretty decent tornado potential with that. And the timing of this on the HRRR is early afternoon. So we're talking 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, that these would get going and move through. All right. And then you can see the HRRR continues to develop this line. It really fills it in out towards our east. That's where the higher threat is, barely. But the timing of this, does it fill in east? Does it fill in over us? Does the whole thing skip over us and then blow up just out towards our east? These are all the questions we have in terms of the forecast tomorrow. And the atmosphere in thunderstorm activity is just chaotic. It's impossible to pinpoint exactly where these storms are going to develop. It just is, because there's so much going on. And a lot of what's going on in the atmosphere hinges on what happens the night before, all right, and what's happening tomorrow morning and where those boundaries end up being. But either way, we're looking at early afternoon through late afternoon as our primary threat of severe storms here in the region. And you look at the HRRR, and that's a nasty line of storms. There would likely be numerous tornado warnings within this line, just giving the setup and kind of what I'm looking at here. And then eventually that line would head east. That would be the big show. Could develop a few additional downpours on the back side of it. I don't see any of those being severe at this point, but could have some gusty winds with anything that develops behind that. And then this whole low kind of rotates through with rain coming out of the northwest, almost like a winter system, right when it gets over with. And then eventually we're saying goodbye to the rain on Thursday with improving conditions throughout the day. All right. So that's the HRRR. I'll show you the NAM nest. Because I kind of like this too. The NAM is a little bit more aggressive. But the problem with the NAM, it doesn't develop this Missouri activity. You can see this stuff's already going and heading in as the HRRR has that moving through. And the NAM develops almost something along a warm frontal boundary here. So that kind of concerns me, unless this actually happens tonight, but that kind of concerns me that the NAM might be a little bit off in terms of where it's thinking boundaries are early. So that means, well, it's probably going to be off later if it's off early, right? But either way, the NAM does bring some storms through just from a different direction tonight. It clears us up right there. Here comes our low. It's just a little bit later than the HRRR was. And look at this. This brings that low right over us with a chunk of storms that develop right along that low. This is almost just a chunk of a bow echo. This would have damaging winds with it. This would be a nasty line of storms if that were to develop. And this develops a little bit later in the afternoon. We're talking mid-afternoon into that evening rush hour. That would breeze through, and then that would become the line that develops with some additional showers and thunderstorms after that. But again, not much would be severe. So you get the idea. There's going to be a swirling low pressure that moves through, and we're going to see explosive storms that develop along it. But a lot of questions in terms of that morning convection. Does it get out of here? I think it will. I have a hunch that it will. And then where do the storms develop? That's the big question in my mind, is do they blow up right over us in the afternoon, or do they develop, start to develop on us and really get going out towards the east? Those are the two things that we're weighing here in the forecast. And I wish I could tell you I knew exactly what's going to happen, but that's kind of the question that I have in my mind, is where exactly do these storms develop? Over us or to the east, all right? And, we'll see what happens, but the models range from over us and to the east, and I would have to agree with those. It all depends on the speed of the system. So that's what we're dealing with tomorrow. A couple additional things I'll show you here. We've got plenty of atmospheric energy. One of those things we measure is dew point. Watch the surge of dew points right there. This has dew points going back into the low 70s tomorrow for these storms. So it's going to be ultra muggy outside. In terms of wind gusts, obviously we can pack a punch with the winds here. This brings good 30 to 50 mile per hour gusts. A lot of that is thunderstorm feedback, but there would be some very gusty winds as this moves through as well. And then in terms of heavy rain, these babies are going to be cranking rainfall wherever they end up going, where we could get a very, very quick, and you can see amounts range quite a bit, but underneath some of the more robust storms, we could pick up a couple inches of rain in a hurry. That looks to be more the exception rather than the rule. But if we get a complex through here, it can put down a quick inch and a half, because that atmosphere is loaded full of moisture throughout the daytime tomorrow. A couple other things I'll show you here. We'll show you the significant tornado parameter. All right, this just puts a bunch of ingredients together in a big algorithm, and it says what are the chances that we'll have some tornadoes around here, and they could be on the stronger side. And we've got some higher values coming through there on the HRRR. We'll see if that holds tomorrow. But again, that's with those line of storms, and that's what I say. I could see multiple tornado warnings if that line were developed. There's going to be lots of lightning with it as well. You can see as those get going, the lightning really gets going. Some of those red areas there are very high amount of frequent lightning as it moves through. Hail is a potential as well. And then something else I look at are the helicity swaths. This basically shows where potential thunderstorms would be spinning and how long and what's the track and how strong. So often before tornado outbreaks, which I'm not expecting tomorrow, but before tornado outbreaks, we'll look at this and just say, and we'll look for a trend and say, okay, well, this area right here is where we need to watch for the potential of some tornadoes. Ditto that downstate. So And you can see it's got a couple of helicity swaths coming through the region, but as expected because the models bring those storm through the region, okay? So there's that. Let's look at the 22Z just in case. This is the latest model run. I have not seen this yet. I don't think it'll make it to tomorrow yet. It doesn't quite make it to tomorrow when those storms develop. And this is a 21Z. Doesn't quite get there yet. So we're still on 18Z data for that. All right. So let me run through real quick. The last thing I'll run through is the heat. We've got some soaring heat on the way for the weekend. So I want to run some of those numbers by because that's not fun either. And then we'll answer your questions. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead, throw them into the chat now. I'll go ahead. I'll be happy to answer those for you for sure. And then what we'll do tomorrow, we're not going to do a normal region weather live tomorrow. We would do storm coverage. If there are any severe storms, we'll be live right here tracking those for you throughout the afternoon into the evening hours, okay? So you can rely on us to get you through those storms. If anything goes severe, we'll be on, okay? Especially with that front as it moves through. So go ahead, get your questions into the chat. Let's talk heat. I'll make this brief. Heat is not as sexy to talk about as storms. I get it. However, we need to take heat seriously, and I know it's summertime, and I get it. And trust me, I am not that person that says, oh, it's overblown heat. It's going to be crazy hot. All right, I don't have flames on any of my map. I saw a lot of folks putting flames out on their weather maps, just saying, oh, soaring heat, like it's summer. I get it, okay? Trust me, I get it. It's summer. It gets hot. This is prolonged heat, though, all right? And it's going to be multiple days. And whenever we have multiple days, we start to run into problems, not just with power grid, but with overnight lows. Those overnight lows don't back off. So a lot of times our cooling systems do not have the ability to cool us down, and we as humans don't get that relief at night on our body in terms of our body temperatures, okay? That's when we start to have problems. And if heat was not the #1 killer, all right, again, not to be morbid, but it is. More people die from heat than tornadoes, floods, all that stuff. That tells me we need to take heat seriously, right? We don't always. So just make sure you have a plan. This is all I'm asking. Make sure you have a plan to stay cool next week, okay? And this starts this weekend, and it'll go through at least the beginning of next week. But, you know, if you've got something outdoors, just make sure you have a plan in place, whether it be extra water at an event, ways to get in the shade, get into air conditioning. You know, if you've got something planned, you know, that's prolonged outdoors, maybe think about rescheduling it. It is going to be a hot week next week. And here's why. Big dome of heat over the desert southwest. That's usually where it is. I mentioned in Sunday's broadcast, this is how it goes every single year. I consider this like the Roomba. All right, it's in its dock, which is in the desert southwest, and every now and then it comes and cleans and goes across the country, then it goes back. So the heat Roomba, it's going to be let loose, and you can see it shifts east for a little bit. This is Sunday into Monday, and this ridge strengthens. We're looking at a 1022 thickness line there. That's pretty impressive. And in terms of that, we can set some records when we get that warm, all right, especially with that ridge. It'll be centered off towards our east, like Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. Some of these spots will be the hottest in the entire country. Yeah, that's what that means. They'll be hotter than Florida. Some will be hotter than Texas. Incredible stuff. And then the whole thing kind of goes back in Roomba style, back out towards the west where it goes. You see what I mean about the Roomba thing? I was onto something when I said that. So that's what we're looking at. Again, big ridge develops at least through Wednesday. Should start to back off. Let's put some numbers on it. I mean, these aren't off the chart numbers, okay, but they're hot and it's prolonged heat. That's the thing. Tomorrow, we're going to warm up in advance of that system. Tonight's nice and muggy out ahead of it. And then we go back into the 80s with comfortabler or more comfortable humidity. You know what I meant. Thursday and the Friday. And then you can see the heat is on starting Saturday, should reach 90, and then we'll be into the 90s Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday are kind of in question at this point. And then we get some relief after that. That's good news. But in terms of the dew points are going to be really high as well. So we're going to have some really thick humidity around here. You know, if we just had the heat coming in with 60-degree dew points, I'd say, yeah, it's going to get hot. But we've got the heat coming in with 70-degree dew points. So we've got real tropical air combined with the heat. So I'm not sure if you could see some of these numbers. A lot of you probably will be able to. But these are the anticipated heat index or heat indices that we'll be looking at during the afternoon hours. So Saturday, we're looking at feels like temperatures around 100 degrees, okay? That's hot. Sunday, even warmer. We're talking 101 to 102, all right? That's hot. Monday should be the core of it. We would be anywhere from 99 to 101 around here. And then we'd be talking even warmer on Tuesday as that heat continues. 100 or so around here. And then Wednesday, There you go. We're talking 100 degrees or so with a bit of some kind of lake breeze boundary pushing in as a frontal boundary moves in. So hot stuff, not off the charts. All right. We've seen it before, but it's the longevity of it that I'm worried about, is the fact that we're going to have a good 5 or 6 day chunk of it. So we don't get a lot of relief at night. And, you know, a lot of people still don't slow down at all, especially in the summertime as we go forward. Okay. So that's what we've got in terms of the forecast. I would be happy to answer your questions regarding anything, whether it be heat or the severe weather threat that we've got moving in tomorrow. I'll kind of let this model run so you can see the evolution of some of these storms as we go into the daytime tomorrow. You can see how they just explode all over Indiana tomorrow. Should have pretty explosive development, meaning if a storm is developing over your region or your county, wherever you are, you would have, you know, the raindrops would start, and then that thing would be downpouring, and then the lightning would pick up real fast. You'd have a quick uptick in lightning. And then, you know, it could be 10, 15 minutes later, we're pouring some strong winds out of it with hail and a tornado threat. So these things could ramp up pretty fast tomorrow. Okay. All right. Let's talk about your questions. I'm going to go back just a little bit. We'll try to look here. I didn't say hi to our early birds. I'm so sorry. I usually do that. Jeff was our first one on board this evening. Good evening, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. Jan, Terry's with us. Christine, Mark says corn sweat. And when can I ride? Yeah, we're getting into corn sweat season, Mark. We're not quite there yet, but boy, are we getting there. You know, ride time tomorrow is going to be tough to come by, but you should get some time probably late morning through midday as what it looks right now. Early afternoon might be okay too, but we got to keep an eye on these storms. And then Thursday looks good. Thursday looks like a great day. Nestor's with us tonight. Carmen, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Lisa's with us. Junie's with us as well. Ashley says the Ferguson boys say hi. Hi, Ferguson boys. They're wonderful weather folks in training. You guys are doing a great job. Michelle says, I know you're going to ease our worried minds. I will tomorrow. Like, if these storms start popping, just come join. We'll have a little chat across much of these storms as they continue to move in. Don't worry about it. All right. We just have to be prepared. Chris says, good evening from Griffith. Let's see. Tom says, who will stop the rain? We're singing Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's good stuff. Lance is with us tonight. Laura, hi to you. Pearl. Man, we got everyone on board here. I'm trying to find the questions here. Okay, Ethan is with us, timing a little sooner than it was showing earlier. Yeah, that happens, Ethan. The timing on these models, Ethan, is always off. These models don't handle these situations in summer very well. They don't. And the reason why, there's not usually a clear-cut cold front like there is in the fall or the spring, where you have cold air coming in. You know the hour that temperature is going to drop. You know the hour that the front will move through. It's real messy this time of year, where the dew points tend to be high behind the front. It kind of lags with the drier air. Everything's just kind of sloppy on the weather map, and so models don't handle that very well. So there's that. Yeah, Ashley says the little one was the extra sponsor tonight. Yeah, Silas, if you guys missed the top of the broadcast, Silas, my littlest, just ran down here. He's got like barely a diaper on, which is my fault. That's how I dressed him earlier. We did a little pool time. But anyway, he came down here, and then Mama came down and was like grabbing him, and he wasn't very happy with that. So there's that. Okay, let's see. Jen, I think I found our first question. Sorry, I had to scroll through these. I'm not trying to waste your time. Jen asks, she says, my son's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to him, first of all. He really wants to hit the beach for a bit. Based on the timing, you think we'll have a window in the morning? Yes, Jen, I do think we will have a window in the morning. We'll have some storms that roll through tonight. There will likely be some activity lingering around early tomorrow, all right? And not saying this model is truth, but here's what we have rolling through tonight. And notice how there's just some lingering junk behind it tomorrow morning. And then that would clear out. We would have a window here. It would probably be great beach weather with the humidity and the heat that'll be pouring in. But make sure you keep an eye on that radar and get home before things start popping, okay? Another question I saw pop up, I forgot where it was, but someone asked, do you foresee a scenario where these storms miss us entirely? And it certainly is possible, all right? I don't want to negate the fact that is an outcome where the system goes by. So we get the storms tonight, but tomorrow the storms would pop just to our east. I could see that happening. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I do feel like these storms are going to pop real close to us and that we would get hit by something tomorrow, okay? So I do think you have a window, Jen, in terms of that. John asked a good question. How bad is our current drought? So, John, it's really not that bad. We're down about 2 to 2.5 inches on the year so far. Remember, we did go dry for a stretch in the month of May, into early June, I believe it was. We had that stretch of drier weather before we got these recent rains. So we still are dry. We're considered under a moderate drought, though, which is level 1 out of 5 versus, or 1 out of 4 versus 0 out of 4. 0 is a level in the drought monitor, but it's not considered a drought. It's abnormally dry. So some of Northwest Indiana is in that. Most of us are in a moderate drought still. And I think they did that because it's June and we require the most rain this time of year because of that strong sun angle. We get a couple sunny days in here, or we get the heat that's on the way with some dry weather this weekend. We're going to dry up real quick. I mean, we're going to have to do a lot of watering this upcoming weekend into the beginning of next week with that heat, because that dries us out real fast. And also that strong sun does. It'll really heat up that ground and cause a lot of evaporation. So I think they did the moderate drought in anticipation of the fact, we can dry up really quickly and really jump into that. But we're only down about 2 inches on the year. Hopefully we get some good downpours from this. Problem with big storms like this is you get that rain so heavy that a lot of it goes into runoff, and it goes right back into rivers and the creeks and eventually Lake Michigan pretty fast, right? So the ground doesn't get a chance to soak that in. So if you guys have rain barrels, if you have the cheap kids pool that's blue that blows in storms, put that stuff out if you can, maybe weigh it down, but put that stuff out to collect some of the rainwater so you can use it for gardens and stuff like that, because most of it just soaks into the ground or it runs off real fast if we get it heavy enough. So it's kind of a waste when you get these really heavy rainfall events. We need a good soaking rain. So there's that. Jill, the humidity does not look to break in the extended forecast. We'll get a little break on Thursday. Some drier air comes in here. But man, we're locked in, and that humidity comes roaring back as we go into next week. So there's that. Let's see. Elijah says, everyone's saying the end of the world tomorrow. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had, Elijah, some severe weather around here. So a lot of these weather pages, again, just check your source. I'm not saying they're all bad. There are some very good weather pages out there. And there are a lot of weather pages where people have them where they don't have full-time jobs like I do, right? I do the morning show on TV, and I'm working a long time during the day. And that's what pays the bills. That's my full-time job. And so I don't consider this a hobby, but I don't have all day to sit around and do graphics and stuff like that. And there are a lot of weather pages that do that because that's what they do. And that's great. I love that. But the thing is, just make sure you check your source, okay? Make sure they're not hyping things up. Make sure they have some kind of meteorology thing going on. A lot of them are kids that have studied meteorology on YouTube, which is, I mean, that's okay, but we just need to tread carefully, right? My job and our job as meteorologists is to keep you safe during severe weather. That's it, all right? You don't need me when it's sunny and 75, but I can get into a thunderstorm and dissect it to you like a doctor can in surgery, right? And that's the important part. Do you have someone that can do that, that can make it make sense, that knows what they're talking about, that knows where a storm is and can keep you safe? And again, that's what you just need to find, all right? It's not just me out there, and that's fine if you find someone else, but I just want you to know you need to make sure you check your source before you're checking any of these forecasts. And the first thing I look for is hype. Is there hype on it? And Elijah says there's a lot of hype out there with EF5 tornadoes and 16-inch hail. And stuff like that. And, if there's bright red graphics screaming your way, you might want to stay away from that page and don't give them their time of day. All right. That's okay. So Melanie, yeah, we're getting some storms tonight. She asked, are we getting storms tonight? Yes, some storms tonight. I'm not too worried about those being severe. So here's that. But we will be keeping an eye on some of those storms tomorrow. Those are the ones that could pack a punch, especially early through mid-afternoon is what I'm looking at time frame wise. I will have another update tomorrow morning, not video wise, but we'll have an update graphic-wise in terms of the timing for all this. If it were happen to change tomorrow morning, I don't foresee that happening. I think we've got a pretty good lock right now. Chris says, for those of us with storm anxiety, Chris, that's a lot of folks, all right? I get messages every day, especially during severe weather events for this stuff. So with the storm anxiety, it's not just you. A lot of people have that. Does your gut tell you tornadoes will be hitting Northwest Indiana tomorrow? Chris, it depends on where these develop. I do see a tornado threat tomorrow with some of these supercells that develop right in there, all right? And the big question is, do they hit Northwest Indiana or do they develop out towards our east? But I do see a tornado threat with this initially, just because of the proximity this low. There's going to be tremendous churning already in the atmosphere, and that will help any of these storms really get going as we go throughout the day. In terms of the tornado risk, the Storm Prediction Center has a very large area of 5%. That's high. All right, in terms of tornado risk, and that does encompass Northwest Indiana. The wind risk is the primary risk tomorrow with damaging winds, especially once these get going. That wind risk really ramps up east of us. Hail would be one of our biggest threats, and a tornado or two, or, I don't want to say more than that. I don't want to get out of control. But yes, unfortunately, Chris, I do see a tornado threat for us here in Northwest Indiana. Best case scenario, these things develop just out towards our east, or we get the initial stage of these storms when they're just getting going, and then they blow up east of us. I mean, we don't want to wish things on eastern Indiana, but if we can get them through here quick enough, we would be okay from that. So there's that. Yeah, Mark says water, back and forth between water and Gatorade. Cut Gatorade with water. Yeah, it'll get in your system quicker. Yeah, the electrolytes certainly help. Now, Gatorade, and I'm not saying I'm a health guru, but we do have a pretty decent diet around here. Gatorade is really not good for you. That stuff is packed with sugar, which it's the electrolytes that you need, and you can get that from electrolyte pack as long as they don't have a bunch of junk in it. Or you can make your own. We make our own electrolyte water when it gets real hot around here. We'll add some lemon to it as well, and oranges. But either way, kind of lay off the Gatorade a little bit if you can. It's more so the water next week. Oh, Elizabeth has an outdoor concert in Chicago tomorrow evening. Worried about these storms. So, Elizabeth, these storms would be out of Chicago tomorrow evening. That's good news for you for your concert. Problem is we would have the big storms would be out. Problem is we would have some lingering showers that would be rolling through the backside of this low. Let me show you. We would have something like this. So the storms move out. This would be tomorrow evening. We'd have these lingering kind of pesky showers that just roll through real quick on the backside of it. So the severe threat wouldn't be there, but we would still keep some lingering rain around as this low rotates. So we'd have to keep an eye out for that. Okay. Jacqueline says, thank you. You're welcome, Jacqueline. Angel, you're welcome as well. Jill, I'm getting through these guys. Jill on our YouTube channel says, open house on Sunday for my niece. Yeah, it's going to be hot. It'll be dry, though. There's that, Jill. And congratulations to your niece. That's awesome. Tom says, any thoughts on July 4th? I know extended, but educated guess. Too soon to tell, Tom. Yeah, I don't want to dive into it quite yet because, I mean, that's 13, 15, that's like 17 days out. So I'm not even going to dive into it. We get cooler. Actually, here I am diving into it. We get a little bit cooler in the long range of the extended after this heat breaks down. So that would tell me that we would probably not stay cool for long. So we would probably reload with the heat and humidity for the 4th. Climatology would tell us that as well. But that would be my early educated guess. And in terms of rainfall, there is no educated guess that goes out that far yet. Okay. Let's see. Baseball tournaments every weekend. Our poor boys. Yeah, Chrissy, we've had a wet set of just cool weekends around here this spring. It really has been incredible. Elizabeth, we're looking at, for Lake County, Maryville, Crown Point, same for everyone tomorrow. We're looking at early through mid-afternoon tomorrow, okay? Let's see. Dale asked a good question on our YouTube channel. Hi, Matt. Weather question. Do we ever get a microburst? I see a lot of them further south in Indiana. They always look super intense. Yeah, we can get microbursts. So the microbursts are usually when you have setups like this, where you have just kind of your run-of-mill pop-up thunderstorms. Not setups like tomorrow, but setups like what we've had the last couple of days with these pop-ups all over the country. But they usually occur when you have dry air. So if you look up into the atmosphere, usually it's humid and you've got moisture all the way up, right? It's just loaded with moisture. But every now and then you'll get some dry air that sneaks in at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and that can cause microbursts to develop, because what will happen is you'll have rain that's up high. That rain will fall into that layer of dry air in the mid-levels, and it'll evaporate, all right, which is kind of strange, right? So you've got rain falling in a thunderstorm, and some of it evaporates. But remember, evaporation is a cooling process. That's why we sweat, right? Because the sweat evaporates and it cools our skin. And so you'll have a cooling effect in the middle of the storm cloud because some of it evaporated. And then you get this big chunk of cold air up in the cloud. So you've got warmer air here, warmer air up top, and this blob of cool air in the middle of the storm, or cold air. Well, cold air is heavy and it's dense and it likes to sink, right? Warm air rises, cold air sinks. And so now you have this blob of cold air that just has to sink. And so it basically drops. That cold air does. It hits the ground. It can't go into the ground, so it goes out. That's your microburst. Is a big blob of cold air dropping that developed up in the cloud. And they have had some down in southern Indiana, but we can get them just as easily here. There's nothing special about southern Indiana in terms of microbursts. We can get them here. They just have had more of them. So there's that. Let's see. Ashley says, what's going on in Lake County? So tonight, Ashley, nothing. We're going to have some storms that move in. I'm not concerned about severe weather tonight. It's tomorrow afternoon that we're going to keep an eye on this cold front and low pressure that moves in. Okay, so I'm not worried about the rain tonight. Pearl, I am too. It should be pretty good tonight. David asks, do we have to hide in a tornado shelter tomorrow? David, if we have a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning tomorrow, for sure, Yeah, there's no guarantee that's going to happen, but the risk is there tomorrow for some pretty gnarly weather. So we'll certainly keep an eye on it for sure. All right. Let's see. Michael Lean says, "Oh, you're the best. Followed you when you started your career in Maryville. You were always spot on when the timing of the storm was going to hit Maryville." Oh, I appreciate that. I disagree. I don't think I was spot on with the timing when I first started my career. I look back and watched some of that a couple years ago, and I was like, man, I was so bad when I was on TV at Lakeshore Public Television. So bad. It's just amazing how you grow in your career, and all of you have careers, I would assume, and you've grown in those, and you kind of look back at the beginning days and how uncomfortable it was. Man, I look at me on TV when I looked at the VHS tapes, not to date myself, when I was at Lakeshore Public Television, and I would say out there all the time. I'd say the words out there. So I'd say like it's 73 degrees out there. It's 52 degrees out there. It's raining out there. And I'm like, what are you doing? I would just be so annoyed watching myself. Anyway, that's that. Danielle joined a little bit late. That's okay, Danielle. Timeline for storms tomorrow. So we'll get storms tonight. And then tomorrow I'm looking at any time early afternoon through mid-afternoon. Sometime in there we would see these explosive storms develop either over us or just towards our east. But we can't take that risk. That's why we're chatting tonight. Okay. Alexis, same thing for you. I think that made sense. Jacob, in terms of live tomorrow, as soon as things go severe, if we have severe storms popping, I'll be on. All right, I've got some freedom tomorrow with my schedule, so I'll be able to go for that. Okay, so there's that. All right, let's see. We don't have a cap anymore. Yeah, actually, we don't have a cap anymore. You're right. It's gone. We're going to have free reign to lift in that atmosphere tomorrow, so there's that. Let's see. George says, is it likely my trash cans will tip over tonight with the wind? No, George, I'm not worried about the trash cans tonight. Just make sure once they collect it, you bring it in tomorrow, because tomorrow afternoon we could certainly get some strong winds in there as well. So there's that. John asking, any thoughts for Georgia? John joining us on YouTube from, John, I assume you're down in Georgia right now. Georgia's got some decent storms here tonight. It's just your run-of-the-mill thunderstorms that develop in the summertime, but there's really good coverage down there this evening. And in terms of, there's a big complex that we're watching here heading in from the north. And again, usually don't cover Georgia, but my last market was right here in Columbus. But as we go through time tonight, that complex that's off towards your north will eventually fade, and we've got more run-of-the-mill pop-ups throughout the day tomorrow. So nothing too crazy tomorrow. Isolated severe thunderstorm or two in the mix. Your better chance for storms would be sometime Thursday as that cold front approaches you. So look at us going national on our region weather page. Is that. That's awesome. Are you down by Savannah, John? My wife and I love to visit Savannah. So I was the chief meteorologist in Columbus, Georgia for 3 years. And so I'm very familiar with Georgia weather down there, especially in the summertime. And you guys have had in Georgia, you guys have had a nice, decently cool spring. I mean, all things considered, it's taken a while to warm up. We're really going to get in the heat this week as that ridge builds over. We're talking mid and upper 90s at times. So there's that. Maxwell says, you think we'll get storms late in the week with the humid weather to cool us off? Yeah, it certainly is possible, Maxwell, in terms of that weekend system. The problem is once we get under this ridge, there's no reason for the air to lift. Everything sinks and compresses and it heats up. And so once we break out of this storm system, it's going to be tough to get any rain whatsoever. But yes, next week, once this ridge breaks down, it's almost inevitable, Maxwell, that we get some kind of round of storms in here. Something's got to change it. There's got to be some kind of change in air mass, and it usually doesn't go quietly. Usually we get something like that. So there's that. Stephanie, you're welcome. John, I see you're in Reedsville. That's great. Small city, southeast Georgia, Tatnall County. Very good. John, well, nice to meet you. I appreciate you finding region weather. So we focus on northwest Indiana weather. If something gets crazy, we go a little bigger than that. But yeah, that's what we're focused on. Chicagoland, northwest Indiana, southwest lower Michigan. Those are kind of the areas on our radar here. And so there's that. Okay. All right, guys, I appreciate you joining me. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join. I know, you've got schedules and stuff going on, middle of summer right now. We're getting into summer. Gosh, I said middle of summer. It feels like it. Our kids have been off for like 2 weeks, and it's like, I'm bored every day. We got stuff to do. All right. Anyway, so there's that. So we'll be with you tomorrow live. Don't forget, we've got our radio update in the morning, X-Rock 103.9, Indiana 105.5, Z107.1 as well. If you've got the radio on in the office, certainly share that. We'll have a region weather forecast all day long on that. Also, regionweather.com will have an update in the morning for you. If you're not signed up for emails, go ahead and sign up for that now. Whatever I type up in the morning, whatever graphic I have will go right to your inbox tomorrow morning. So you don't have to refresh the Facebook page or anything like that. It'll be sent right to you. And again, we don't send junk or anything like that. Usually one email a day. We take weekends off to give your inbox a break. So a lot of you enjoy that. I think there's I think we're 500-600 people are signed up for that right now. So we do appreciate that. And again, it's for free. So there's that. Regionweather.com. You can sign up for daily emails on the right-hand side of your screen. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow probably, okay? Hopefully we're talking about these storms developing east of us, but I have a hunch that's not going to be the case. So make sure you stay tuned. All right, bye.